Hello, I'm Alex Mansfield, the host of Manny Talks Shooting, and welcome to another episode. This is the shooting podcast where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry. We'll talk competition, self-defense, concealed carry. If you like this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Talks Shooting. And without further ado, let's get to this episode. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Manny Talks Shooting, the shooting podcast on the internet, because I enjoy this, and I think you do too, because my analytics say you do. But without further ado, let's talk about the title sponsor of the podcast, Go Fast, Don't Suck. They make awesome match jerseys, match banners, like ones behind me, dry fire decals, and hurtful, truthful memes on the internet. So go check them out, gofastdon'tsuck.net. Tell him Manny sent you. I really appreciate it, guys. I don't have a code, but just put it in the comments. He knows that I send you. But without further ado, let's get to the meat and potatoes of why we're here. Today's guest is Mr. Ben Czyzewski. Ben, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing well. How are you?
I am doing fantastic, and thanks for coming on. We've
Absolutely.
met.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. We've met each other a couple times now. It seems like you come to my neck of the woods more often than not, but it's always good to see you and your manager. But we'll talk about more her and you later a little
Sure.
bit. But thanks for coming on, brother. But I guess my big opening question that I ask everybody is, who is Ben, and how did you get in shooting?
So I'm Ben Czyzewski. I live in New York State, like central New York, south central part of New York. I grew up like 2 hours north of here, in like just south of the Adirondack Park, pretty rural area. Kind of grew up in a hunting family. My dad hunted from when he was a very young age, and he introduced it to me. I have two older brothers. Introduced it to the three of us when we were very young. So I've been shooting guns pretty much for as long as I can remember, and even a little bit before then. My dad was a big competitive archery shooter, 3D archery shooter. And although that's very different from what we do in USPSA, it's still pulling a trigger and putting a sight on a target and pulling a trigger at the end of the day with a trigger release on a bow. So he's a very fundamentally sound shooter, and he kind of taught us a lot of those skills from when we were very young. So most of the shooting that I did growing up was hunting oriented. So all the guns that we had and all the shooting that we did was hunting rifles and shotguns and, like I said, bows. And most of the shooting that we did was kind of simulating hunting scenarios. A lot of like dialing in our deer rifles and things of that nature. So that was kind of the extent of my shooting experience through my childhood into my teens and early 20s. Living in New York State, it's not a super convenient state to purchase and own handguns. Long guns, it's not a big deal, but handguns, it's just not convenient. You can own them, pretty much anyone can get them. It's just kind of a pain in the butt to go through the process. And when I was 21 and could finally buy one, I was kind of bouncing around. I was doing an internship in Jersey, and then I lived in Pennsylvania for a little while. So I didn't really end up back in New York permanently until I was in my mid-20s, like 25 or 26. And I moved to where I live now is a fairly firearm concealed carry friendly county in New York. So I went out and I got my concealed carry permit and bought my first handgun. So when I was like researching, like everyone does, watching YouTube videos and stuff about what handgun I was going to buy, I came across some videos for IDPA. And I thought it looked cool. So I just went on the internet and did some research to try and find some clubs nearby. And there's really nothing nearby, IDPA or USPSA. Everything is an hour or more away from me. But I found some like an hour to an hour and a half away and started shooting IDPA. So that was in 2019, March 2019. I started shooting at an indoor range like an hour and a half north of here. I was driving like an hour and a half every Tuesday and Thursday to go shoot their little 4-stage indoor match. I just fell in love with it and was willing to make the drive a couple nights a week to go do that. So that was, like I said, that was 2019. I did that IDPA exclusively through the 2019 season. And then COVID kind of shut down the start of the 2020 season. And being in New York, there was a lot more regulations than a lot of the other parts of the country. So we were shut down. Like we weren't even shooting matches in New York or PA until like late June, early July. So the first match that opened up in 2020 for us was end of June, I think. And it was a USPSA match. So that was my first USPSA match. I went down, I shot that, and I haven't shot an IDPA match since then. Kind of dove into USPSA with both feet, and yeah, that's where we are now. That was in 2020, so 3 years now. I've been in USPSA, 4 years in practical shooting.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a long history of, being into firearms, and it's luckily you did find the random Pro 2A kind of gun-friendly county to live in in the state of New York.
So, I mean, New York's a big state. So a lot of people think who aren't from this area and don't know New York, they think of New York, and obviously you think of New York City. And that's like you could be in the state of New York and be 6 hours from where I live is like 3 hours from New York City. So really most of the state outside of like Albany, the state capital, and a couple other like small areas, most of the state is pretty rural. There's a lot of farms, there's a lot of mountains. So you get outside of those handful of super liberal counties, and it's actually pretty conservative, most of the people, I should say, are pretty gun friendly. So
Well, that's pretty awesome. Yeah. Now, so you said, your dad was an avid rifle and shotgun and archery shooter. You said he did 3D archery competitions. Was that with, I'm assuming, was like with a crossbow, or did you any traditional stuff?
No, so it's a compound bow. That my dad did it like kind of like you and I shoot USPSA, traveling all over the country. I remember when I was real little, it was all summer long, spring, summer, fall, early fall. We were driving all over the country shooting bows. And I did that myself. So I'm the youngest of 3 boys. I have a younger sister. She's not really into that stuff, but so my oldest brother was like super into it, and then it just kind of for 4 people to be traveling the country shooting bows, I imagine it just got expensive and it just got difficult to do. So that kind of faded out from a competitive level, but we still shoot, and I still to this day I'm an avid archery hunter. I shoot bows all summer long, not competitively, but again just for preparing for hunting. So yeah.
Yeah, the reason I ask is, my mother and stepfather now that they're empty nesters, finally my youngest, my actual sister is out of the house. She's grown up, bought her own place. They go around our state and do traditional archery shoots every weekend. So
that's with like longbow recurve type stuff.
Yeah, super traditional. So they get a kick out of it, and they keep it like, can you come hang out with us this weekend? No, I'm busy. I want to, but it's always one of those things. It's like, why has it got to be 2 hours across the state and I'm at a match?
Sure. Yeah. I've never done the traditional thing. I've always thought about it. I've just got too many hobbies as it is. I've always like every season is full with something. And that's just one more thing that costs money. So for now, I haven't done it. Maybe someday.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So you said you got into IDPA in 2019, then bumped over to USPSA in 2020. What division did you start your adventure in USPSA with?
So I did the IDPA thing. I did like whatever their production division is. I had an M&P with like a 4 1/4 inch slide on it. I did that for like a minute, and then I switched over to carry optics. I bought an SP01 Shadow just because I thought I was going to be an IDPA guy, and it made weight without having to chop up the slide for IDPA. So I bought the SP01 Shadow to shoot IDPA, and then I think I shot like 1 IDPA match with it, and then switched over to USPSA. So I've been exclusively in carry optics since I started in USPSA.
Okay, so I'm assuming you stuck with the Shadow for a minute and then moved to a Shadow 2, I'm assuming?
No, I still shoot the Shadow 1s. They're fine. I actually bought a second one just instead of buying 2 Shadow 2s. I just bought 1 Shadow 1, and they get the job done.
Are they still producing that gun off the line?
You can buy it from CZ Custom.
Oh, okay.
So I actually had I bought an SP01 with like the firing pin block in it. I bought that used, and then I just bought the upper from CZ Custom. That was my first one, and then the second one was just from CZ Custom.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, because you don't hear much about the Shadow 1s anymore because it just seems everyone has a Shadow 2. It seems.
No, I've actually I shot a Shadow 2, maybe like a magazine through it, and that's been my experience with a Shadow 2. And I don't want to shoot one because then I'll probably have to go out and buy one. So I just stick with the Shadow 1, and it's been good for me. I imagine there's not a huge difference.
Right. Yeah.
At the end of the day, there's people out there competing with Glocks. So
yes, this is true. There are the Shane Coleys of the world shooting Glocks,
right.
And
that's right.
With a bum leg, still beating a lot of people.
Usually, yes, yeah.
But yeah. Now, so you're shooting the Shadow 1s. Did you what made you want to go double action, single action so early, other than IDPA?
Just because of how good you can get the single action triggers. Really, that was kind of. I guess. I guess let me put myself in 2020 me brain. Probably just because I saw everyone shooting shadows.
Hmm.
I'm watching YouTube videos, seeing everyone shooting shadows. But I'm kind of a trigger snob. Like all my guns, like I was just having a conversation with a friend the other day. I don't think I have a gun, shotgun, like my turkey hunting shotguns, my deer rifles. I don't have a gun with a trigger over 2 pounds. Like I would consider a 2 pound trigger like heavy. Um, and you can really tune up those single action, double action, single action triggers. So
Hmm.
that was super appealing to me.
So
And
on
then just
the
a metal gun, like it's just cooler, I guess.
right, yeah. Well, you got to have all that weight.
Right,
You got to shoot that low recoiling
right.
minor
One
power factor 9 millimeter, right?
130 power factor can be pretty violent.
Yeah, it definitely can be fine. And then we got to put all the pro gripper Petzl on our hands so that
Yep.
like our hands don't actually contact the gun. It's just
Mm-hmm.
layers of Petzl in between.
Yeah. No, I definitely I pro grip up before every stage. I'm putting on pro grip.
I'm not picking on you. I'm picking on everybody because it seems
No, I
like
know.
everybody does it.
Yeah. I'm very strategic. Like I put it on like very strategic parts of my hand so that I can like if I get a bad grip, I can kind of adjust my grip
Hmm.
without it get stuck to the gun or whatever.
Now, you say you're a trigger snob. Does that mean you do all your own trigger work then?
I do, yeah. Yeah. Every time I get a new gun, I just bought a new turkey gun before turkey season this year. And before I even shot it, I did trigger. I had springs in the mail before I actually had the gun. And then I broke out the files and went to work.
There you go. Now, it's nice because you do it all yourself, so you know what you kind of want. So then you can pull it back
Right.
apart and be like, no, I need this little more. Now, have you messed up a trigger before?
Yeah. I've like hundreds of dollars of parts that just don't work anymore, sears and disconnectors and things like that. But I've gotten better. I've gotten to the point now where I'll just like do a little measure twice, cut once kind of a thing. Um, but even still, like I'll screw something up. Usually, what I'll do is I'll get it until it's perfect, and then I'll want it to be more perfect, and then that's when
That's when it
push
messes
it too
up.
far. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it all is, right? It's like it's just right. And then the OCD, and somebody's like, but I can make it just so much
I can
better.
still feel like a cat's hair of creep in there, so I got to get that out, and then I go too far.
Hmm. Now, when on your shadow ones, do you replace the trigger shoe to be like a flat face trigger, or do you like the
I
curve?
Yeah, so I have like the CZ Custom. They came out with that flat shoe that was kind of like slanted and like rounded on the front. And I sent it off to a guy. I think he's in PA. I apologize if I got this wrong. He's in PA or Jersey. On Instagram, Idle Minds Innovations is the name of his little shop there.
Hmm.
And I sent it down to him, and he milled it flat for me. I did that like right when I got the guns, so it's the only trigger shoe I've ever used. Um, and it's really nice. It's flat and it's like perfectly 90 degrees in single action. And yeah, I really like them.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's cool. And it's nice that you are a tinkerer, so you can tinker with your own things, and you're not like sending it off to somebody, and then when the gun breaks, you're not like, what do I do? It's a
Right,
broken.
right, right. Yeah, no, I kind of like YouTube was obviously helpful in that when I got the shadows. But it just makes it easy. Like if I break something or if I gotta replace something, I can just do it myself.
Hmm. Yeah, that's got to be ease of mind, right? So you might not want to break it apart at a safe table, but you definitely can take it home and get it back and running.
I mean, if I feel like every time my gun breaks, it's at a major match. So I have broken them, broken them down at safe tables before.
I mean, at
Um,
least some safe tables are probably better than others because they actually have room.
right.
I've been to a couple matches where it's like, here's this little 2x4. This is the safe table. I'm like, great.
Yeah,
I mean, but the best thing about it is, it's people are less likely to handle ammo in the safe area if it's only a
that's
freaking
true.
2x4.
That's true. I've seen it before where someone's got like their little box of ammo and they're standing outside the safe area, but they set their ammo because it's like this nice little table, and then they get a free trip home. I
Yeah,
guess a paid trip home, I should say.
yeah,
A
and it's
very
usually
expensive paid trip home.
yeah, and it's usually always the guy on the first stage of the day, and they're not paying attention, and it's like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bummer of a way to go home from a match for sure.
Yeah, for pure like lack of thought. I mean, it's not
Mm-hmm.
it, but so do you have any other aspirations to shoot anything other than carry optics?
If I hit the lottery, I'd shoot open. Just looks like a lot of fun, but I'm not willing to give up the other hobbies that I have right now in order to
Mm-hmm.
shoot open. If USPSA was like the only thing I did, I would shoot open.
Right.
No questions asked. It's you don't have to worry about screwing with the rules and screwing with gear. Like it just is what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the guns are awesome, and you can shoot fast and get major power factor scoring and all that cool stuff too.
Yeah,
Um,
I will say shooting Charlies does not hurt as bad when you only
right,
lose 1 point.
right, right. So for now, I'll shoot carry optics, or I guess limited optics. We'll see what happens with that. I mean, I don't imagine I'll change my gear very much. I might toss a magwell on, but I mean, as far as that goes, I'm just gonna chase the heat more than anything. As far as I see it, they're basically the same division. So
Yeah, it's the inevitable division that was going to come due to enthusiasts and the time of technology. At this point, in my opinion, no one has to like my opinion. Just put them together. After the first initial 12 months, just put them together.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. When I look at a match that has limited optics and carry optics, I just combine the
Hmm.
scores. Someone shooting limited optics beats me, then I consider that someone that beat me in the same division essentially. So I
Right.
would agree. Makes a lot of sense to just put them together.
So if you were gonna go to Open, would you invest in a 2011 or would you get a Checkmate?
I wouldn't shoot I thought about shooting checkmate. Um, but if I'm gonna spend the money on a new CZ, I'd get Shadow 2s. Like if I'm gonna go into open, I'm shooting 2011s.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I just have recently talked to enough like two guys who shot Shadow 2s and then now they're shooting checkmates. So it's like I guess I understand the manual of arms is pretty similar, so it's not too different, but
I imagine by the time I don't know, I'm totally pulling this out of thin air. I've never really looked into it, but I imagine by the time you upgrade the checkmates to the point where I would want them anyways, you're probably not that far off from just going out and buying even like a used 2011.
hmm
Probably not much difference in price. But then
no,
again, I don't know. I don't know.
you're probably not wrong though either though.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, but yeah, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, now if I remember right, first time I met you, you're still wearing a Dominate belt, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, yeah. I still wear those.
I'm a little biased, but so what do you think of them?
They're the. I mean, I haven't tried a lot. I was shooting the double alpha with the inner outer, just the one that most people are or were using before the Lynx belt came out.
Hmm.
Um, I just could never get it tight enough. And then I was just gonna get a ratchet for my double alpha belt, and then I forget who it was. Somebody was wearing one or talking about one. Um, and the inner belt, like I was worried about the inner belt bunching up on me with the whole
Hmm.
ratchet system. And that's kind of what drew me to it was the fact that that inner belt isn't going to bind up on you when you ratchet the outer belt. So I love it. I don't have any reason to change. I haven't seen anything that I feel like looks better at this point in time. If I do, I'll probably try it. But
Hmm.
for right now, it's the best I've seen or come across.
I mean, I couldn't say any better, nicer words about it because I agree, and I see a lot of people now they're getting the Lynx belt and they're putting the special ratchet on it,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
just the same cost as like a custom made in the USA product from Dominate Defense, and it's like,
right.
yes, you can get it a little bit quicker, but
I mean, it's really not that long. What is the wait? I just bought one like last year, but I feel like it wasn't that long of a wait. If you order it in the wintertime.
right, yeah, you get if you buy it in the off season, I think because if you do buy it in main season, you're just like, is it here yet? Is it here yet?
Yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah,
he's probably maybe a 2 to 3 week. It's less than a month lead time at least.
yeah, yeah. It's not horrible.
But yeah,
It's
so
custom made. I mean, it's bulletproof.
hmm well,
It's
it's
definitely
got
worth it.
yeah, and it's got metal inside both belts. I think. Well, depending on which version of the inner belt you have, it may or might not have metal.
Yeah. Does the new inner belt not have metal? The new one
The new one
doesn't. Like my inner belt has like a little hook on it that hooks
Mhm.
into a little elastic loop. Is that the new one, or is there a newer one than that?
There's a newer one than that he's been playing with.
Yeah.
I do. I, I think it does. It should have metal, except the connecting mechanism is different than the one you and I have, because I still have
Okay.
the one with the hook.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But
That's the only thing that's kind of a pain in the butt because I like to get that as tight as I possibly can, and
mhm.
I have the hook in like the middle of my back. So like if it was in the front, it wouldn't be so bad. But because I want all that junk in the back, it's kind of like hard reaching behind my back and trying to pull in 2 different directions. And that's luckily I have my wife. She usually helps me at least guide the, it's going to look wrong, guide the hook into the loop.
Well, I was about to say, it's like that's not a one-man job. That's a I need my manager call.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, and those belts are great, but yeah, I love those belts, and I am actually wearing an inner belt right now because these are my dry fire shorts.
Okay.
Because I mean, that's the one thing I learned from the Shoot Fast podcast was you wear dry fire shorts at home, so then when you want to go dry fire, you don't got to put anything on. You just slap a belt on.
Yeah, when I don't even put the inner belt on when I dry fire because it ratchets. So I can just ratchet it super tight, and then I don't even screw with the inner belt.
Yeah, and a nice thing is too with the ratcheting outer belt is like at a match when you're sitting for a while or you're chilling, like you can just pop a couple, hit the button in the back and it pops it just a couple clicks and you're like,
yeah, yes, definitely.
Yeah, but besides that, I guess is I'm lost my train of thought, but it's okay. So Ben, what is with your daily day life and your other hobbies, what does your training schedule look like?
So, I have like very strict seasons where I'm doing specific things. So I'm a college professor, so I don't teach classes in the summertime. So I have a ton of time in the summertime, pretty much infinite time in the summertime to train. So in the past, like when I first started back in 2019 and 2020, I was doing like hours of dry fire a day. In 2019, I was doing a lot of live fire too when primers and stuff were still available and affordable. And then from like 2020 to 2021, I made like 5,000 primers last me for like 2 seasons. So I wasn't doing a lot of live fire, but like I said, when I first started, I was doing 2-3 hours of dry fire a day. Basically, I'd go shoot a match every single weekend, sometimes 2. And then I would like just discover something that I've either never done before or that I wasn't very good at. And then I would just go dry fire the crap out of that until I was good at it. Now, like last year, I was on more like a strict dry fire schedule where I would like I felt like I picked a lot of the low hanging fruit in those first couple of years. So now it was just like dry fire maintenance, and the gain, obviously still trying to get gains, but the gains aren't nearly as big as when I'm first starting out.
Mm-hmm.
Making, huge leaps in every dry fire session. Did I lose you?
Nope. I bet you're back with me.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Did you lose me for a minute, or are we good?
We're okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So anyways, I'd put on the belt and I'd force myself to dry fire for 15, 20 minutes, a half an hour, whatever the case was. This year I haven't really done a lot of, so I'm a turkey hunter, and that's kind of my first thing is turkey hunting, and that's in the spring. That's April and May. Every week we're traveling somewhere, turkey hunt. So I don't even pick up my guns until June, usually when turkey season's over at the end of May. And that was, I had told myself that I was gonna force myself to dry fire during turkey season, but I'm kind of like a one-track mind. And when it's turkey season, like I'm totally focused on turkey. So I didn't. And then with nationals being so early this year, I just did a ton of dry fire and live fire those first 3 weeks of June. So I shot like the week leading up to nationals, I shot probably 2,000 rounds in that week. Just every night I just go and shoot live fire with some dry fire sprinkled in, just to kind of get used to the gun in my hand again, in recoil and that kind of stuff. But now that nationals is over, I feel like my motivation has kind of dwindled a little bit. And I'm not dry firing as much. I got Area 7 coming up, so I started last night. I started in on the nightly live fire again, and then I'll probably ramp that up next week. Do a couple hundred rounds every night, but it hasn't been what it has been in the past for sure.
Gotcha. Now, like if you're going into a dry fire session, are you looking at deficiencies from your match footage or like your live fire practices and figure out what you want to work in dry fire, or are you keeping to like a routine like Steve Anderson's like refinement repetition kind of stuff?
No, so I never really was like a drills guy. I would kind of just, like I said, I'd go shoot a match and then I'd have a bummer of a stage, or I'd see something that I'd never seen before. And obviously I wasn't good at it. So I would just try to replicate that somehow, either in dry fire, live fire, or both. And just do it until I was good at it. More recently, most of my training really has been focused on the vision aspect of the game. Just trying to be more precise with my vision, drive my eyes to a small spot. That was something I felt like I hit a wall kind of at the end of 2021. And then that was something that kind of, I don't know if I was just paying attention to it more, or if it became something more popular to talk about on Instagram and all the podcasts and that kind of thing. But I heard people talking about this a lot more. And so I started really training it and got the vision focus trainer from Stonebridge and really started focusing on that. And I've seen a lot of gains. I don't know. It's hard to like measure if my speed is increased just because you never shoot the same stage twice. I'm sure it has to some degree, but what I have seen is the percentage of points has gone up like 4 or 5% since I started focusing on the vision aspect. And that's really like most of my dry fire. That's what I'm focusing on these days. And obviously while I'm doing that, I'm hitting draws and I'm hitting reloads and things like that. But and if I go shoot a live fire practice and I am struggling with something, obviously I'll try and work that out in dry fire too. But I would say the vast majority of my dry fire time is focused on vision stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is so important when it comes to shooting at like a very fast rate of speed and shooting alphas, because Charlies are unacceptable to the point, it seems like, in any division. It seems like now. I mean, sometimes you can get away with it, super fast, but some Charlies, but everyone at the top still shooting alphas.
Right.
Like it's ridiculous. Like Nils, I think at Nationals he had 0 mics.
Yeah.
Which is
I think
insane.
I think Christian had shot more alphas than anyone else in the match. And had the fastest time.
Yeah. He is definitely insane. Like I have it pulled up. Let's see what we got. Come on, Christian. Christian shot 363 alphas. Wow. Nils said 345, but he had no mics. Christian had 5 mics. I will say this is probably the most contested, most heat in a match, even from last year. Like it ramped up even more in Ohio compared to in Talladega. Were you able to go to Talladega last year?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, so you this year you really didn't shoot much going into Area 5 at all.
No. So we literally, it was turkey season, start of April, we start traveling, and we were in Virginia, we were in Connecticut, we were in Pennsylvania, and we're doing that. We're going somewhere in April and May to hunt turkeys, and I say we, my wife and I, for 2 months straight. And this year, Area 5 was that first week of June. And I hadn't killed a turkey in Michigan yet. So I was like, let's go out and hunt Michigan the week leading up to Area 5. And then that's the end of the season. And then I'll just bring my guns and we'll go shoot Area 5. So I did a couple live fire sessions leading up to Area 5, more or less just to like make sure my guns were zeroed and things like that, a couple 100 rounds of doubles to go along with that. But yeah, we hunted, we actually camped. We were out in like Western Michigan. We camped out, hunted, killed a turkey in Michigan, and then drove back to Brooklyn and shot Area 5.
Now you've been there, last year and this year. So you experienced the year of 2022 where everyone was like, this is the hardest match ever. And then we went to 2023. What did you think of between the two matches? I mean, I know they're not directly comparable, but what did you think from 22 to 23?
Well, I think they are pretty comparable. I think they had similar flavors, just a little more tamed down. Not as many 20-yard mini poppers. And that's, if I'm trying to remember last year's Area 5. I feel like that was the biggest gripe, right? Was the 20-yard mini poppers.
20-yard mini poppers. It seemed like nobody liked stage 13, which was the standard stage, strong hand, weak hand stage.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there was that, and there was the fixed time stage. But I liked that. That was probably the best fixed time stage I've ever shot. It was doable, but it was hard. But and then there was the one, I think it was stage 5, the one that's like kind of down in the back corner there by the little barn. that had like a 20-yard or 25-yard swinging plate or something like that.
Yeah, it was a bobbing popper.
Bobbing plate. Yeah, bobbing mini popper. Yeah.
And you could either take it. Yeah, it was either through the port or this ridiculously stupid lean that you had to try to get, and it was like.
So I did the stupid lean and missed it, and then I just gave up and then shot it through the port.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it was hard. I kind of enjoy difficult matches and difficult shots. I feel like that's a strength. Like I said, growing up, most of the shooting I did was like slow fire accuracy type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like right up my alley. I kind of enjoy that stuff, but I think this year's Area 5 was just, again, like a similar flavor, just kind of a toned down version of last year's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you agree? Would you agree with that?
I mean, yes, I'm a little biased because I helped put it on the ground, but yes, I will agree. It was definitely not as harsh or penalizing. Well, I mean, when people got penalties, it still hurt, right? But it wasn't as screw you as the year prior.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, and I thought it was a good match, but I wish it sucked is because there was not a lot of people. I mean, there were still 200 people, I think, in the match. This year at Area 5.
It wasn't like last year, was it? Like last year it was pretty full, right?
There was it still could have been a lot fuller because there was about 300 people shooting the match last year, and then only 221 this year for Area 5. And I've talked to a couple people. It's either like I felt it was nice because it was close to nationals, so people could get a prep match before nationals.
Yeah,
but it also detracted from people going because nationals was so close. It's either you go to Area 5 or you go to nationals kind of thing.
Right.
So there was definitely those types of people I feel in the equation too. But I enjoyed the match. I thought it was a good match. I shot very well, so I can't complain.
Yeah, that always makes you feel better about a match, right?
Yeah. Well, and
my favorite stages are the ones I shoot well. So.
Right, exactly. Like I shot through the match. So I shot half of it on the first day I shot, and then I shot the second half on the second day, Saturday morning. So I shot Friday afternoon, Saturday morning with like the stats guy and the match director, or the other stats guy, because I was helping with stats for a while until I had to go help on a stage on the second half. So
yeah, it's tough to shoot well when you're doing that kind of stuff. Keep your head in the game.
Yeah, and honestly, I shot really well. I mean, my buddy, the match director is a friend of mine, so we're like, all right, it's you and me. I'm gonna beat you on pretty much all these stages because we're both shooting open. And I'm like, but we're still gonna have fun and we're gonna cheer for each other because that's how it goes. But then it always sucks. Is like it's just 2 people, 3 people. You're like, oh crap, I don't get my time to like mentally prepare, so I got to go pace these targets so I can go shoot it.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah. So I liked Area 5. We'll see because Area 5 is going to Ohio for 24 and 25. So we'll see how.
Do you know who the match director is for those? For next year?
Next year, it should be my buddy Corey Katz. He ran stats and was like assistant match director for the Buckeye Blast this year in 23. But he's going to run Area 5 and the Buckeye Blast as the match director in 24 for sure. So, and that's right where Nationals was. So,
right.
So that range. So, I guess this is a good question then for you. What did you think of the Ohio range for Nationals?
I mean, I think a lot of the same. It's a cool facility.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it could be like an ideal spot for Nationals if they expand a few more bays like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like we've heard it all over the internet, the like wall bays in zone 1.
Mm-hmm.
I think we shot 6. No, we shot a couple from zone 2. So we shot like 7 stages or 8 stages. I forget what it was, but something like that. With the walls. And I don't think, I mean, they were okay.
Mm-hmm.
There were definitely some stages that kind of forced you to go to a spot and shoot it. But I feel like at the same time, it kind of baited me anyways. It kind of baited me to try and shoot stuff on the move. And then I was penalized for it. So I think it was an interesting challenge in that sense. I mean, I definitely think you can build better bays or better stages in a bay with side berms.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree with that.
But for what they had, I think my gripe was that there was like 5 or 6 stages in the match that were like basically the same stage, where you like force start in the middle and then you got to go to one side and shoot an array and then come back and go to another side and shoot an array, and there was like some steel and a mover. There was like a bunch of stages that were like that stage, obviously a little bit different, but so I would have liked to see a little bit of variety there. But I've never run a match, I've never even designed a stage, so it's tough for me to be critical of stage designers when I've never done it. But having shot a bunch, I think they could have done a little bit more. But that being said, to answer your original question, I think if they were to build like 5 more bays, 6 more bays with side berms, it'd be sweet.
Yeah, and I agree. And even from what I saw on the internet, there was stages that were like, this is the same stage with a different skin on it.
Right.
Yeah, and I've been there. I don't know how many bullet traps they actually used, because I know they have decent amount of bullet traps at Cardinal.
Yeah.
It just felt like they didn't want to use them for some reason.
Yeah. I don't know. When I'm shooting a match, especially like nationals, like I'm so just focused on like shooting whatever the challenge that's like, I got no control over it, right? So I'm just there, I'm going to shoot the challenge that's in front of me. So quite honestly, like I don't even pay attention to that stuff. I couldn't tell you how many bullet traps there were either. Like, here's the stage that I got to shoot. I'm going to try and shoot it, focus and shoot it to the best of my ability. And all this, like, all that drama and memes and stuff, that's fun. And I enjoy following along and laughing at them. But I'm just there to shoot the match. And there's nothing that Ben, is going to do anything about it. I think that's kind of a bigger problem with more long-term solutions. So,
right.
It's kind of the way I looked at it.
True. Now, what did you shoot? AM, PM, AM, or PM, AM, PM?
PM, AM, PM.
Okay, so you still got some rain, but it wasn't as bad as the morning squads on Friday.
Yeah, so I don't know how bad it was for the morning squads on Friday. I think it was pretty bad. I think zone 1 and 2. I think the bays with the walls held a little bit more water in. So like the super squads in zone 1 on day 1. I think whether you were shooting in the morning or the afternoon, you were shooting in 3 inches of water. I had like one stage, maybe 2, where I had to run through like water that was over the top of my shoes. No, I mean, I don't think I shot a single stage when it was actually raining. There were people on my squad who did. I just happened to get lucky. I did have to shoot. I shot probably 3 stages maybe with bags on. But I don't know. When I showed up to walk stages, the morning squad was shooting stages without bags on, and they like all the targets were like folded over. So I assume they shot several stages without bags on because the targets were wet. But I don't really know what exactly what it was like for the morning squads.
Gotcha. Now, looking at the results from nationals, was this your best performance at a nationals event?
Yeah. So last year was my first nationals. And it was kind of a bummer of a match for me. I was like 42nd or something like that. But it was just all in all bad. I just tried really hard. My first nationals, I'm gonna go out there and show everyone what I can do, and I just crashed and burned. But this year was much better for me, for sure. Day 1 and day 3, I shot really well. I had my one and only dumpster stage of the match was my very last stage of the match. I shot like 23% on it. But outside of that one dumpster stage, day 1 and day 3 were great. Day 2, I shot zone 1. I think a lot of people had their worst day in zone 1. And that didn't necessarily have a bad day on day 2. It just wasn't, I don't know, I just didn't feel right mentally. But all in all, yeah, it was definitely my best performance compared to last year for sure.
So looking at your scores, I think the best placement you had was a 7th stage finish on stage 20. The people call it the Dorito stage.
Yes.
Because it was the 3 triangles. Now, I'm curious, what was your plan? Was it the back 2 boxes, or did you run all the way to the front?
Yeah, I just did back 2. Like if I can avoid, I'm a big dude, and if I can avoid getting in a foot race with some of these guys, I'm going to avoid getting in a foot race with them. It sounds like from hearing, I didn't see anyone shoot it who ran up, but it sounds like it was kind of a wash if you're really fast at running. And I just felt like the option for me to stay back and avoid a 20-yard foot race with guys like JJ or whoever else decided to run up, I'm going to do that. So yeah, I just shot the back 2 box. I shot the middle box and ran back and shot the back box.
Right. Yeah. I think, what was it? I, at least for sure, from listening to Steve Anderson, I think JJ and Max both ran to the front.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the times were right there with this guys in the super squad who stayed back.
Yeah.
So
now, is your goal to be on the super squad at some point?
yeah, I mean, yes, I think eventually that's kind of where I'd like to be. If I could be a perennial super squad guy, I think I recognize that a national championship, I just don't invest enough time to be a national champion. Or, I mean, those guys like Christian's an alien. And guys like Nils and those guys, they're just, that's what they do. And they probably are just naturally better than I am. But I feel like I could be a super squad guy. I try to avoid putting too much stock in what ifs, but everyone does it. I do it. And ultimately I'm like one dumpster fire stage and a couple deltas away from being 13th, 12th, 13th, right in that range. Right. So again, so are like 20 other guys. So it's tough to put a lot of stock in the whole what ifs on practice score, but it's not that far out of reach or the realm of possibilities.
Right. Now, for me, like if I play what if, I'm going to purely think if I have a malfunction. So I'm going to take that time, especially if they use the really nice commander timers that actually tell you how long from shot to shot you were. You can, okay, so it was a 2-second malfunction. So if I take 2 seconds off the top of this time, we see where our hit factor then comes, and then you see, where you could be. But you didn't have a horrible match other than that one stage. You were fairly consistent on your placements. So
yes. Yeah. I mean, I think day 2, I was like 5% on average less than I was on day 1 and day 3, I think. But yeah, just that one stage. And I think I knew I don't track scores. In my goal for the match, I wanted to be top 20 and 90%. Those are my 2 goals. And some of the other guys in the squad were tracking scores. And they weren't saying anything, but I could kind of tell like I was having a good match and had a potential to place higher than I had initially expected. And I could just feel like every stage as we're getting closer to the end, I can just like feel the pressure. And then on that very last stage, it was there's 2 stages. It was a doubled up bay. And so there's one bay that was kind of staggered back from the stage that I was shooting. What they were doing is they were shooting the first shooter in the backstage, and then I would go, and then the next shooter who was shooting the front stage would go up and shoot the front stage. But they were scoring the backstage like while the person was making ready for the next stage. Which I kind of hadn't paid attention to that. I'm like in the zone and doing my walkthroughs in my head and stuff. So I go up and I'm doing my make ready, and they're scoring, and I kind of waited for them to stop scoring, and everything was quiet and everything was good. And then I'm not blaming anyone. This is just what happened. One of the ROs said to the RO who was running the timer that said something about one of the targets on my stage that I was about to shoot. And that just totally like consumed my brain in that moment. And what I should have done, I've had this happen to me before. And instead of just like taking a step back, run through my make ready again, I just go shoot the stage. And it's every time that's happened to me, it's been a dumpster. So I should have just restarted my make ready and everything. But anyways, long story short, I bombed the stage, and that's my excuse. So
wasn't the stage supposed to be like a 7-second stage and it had like 5 or 6 targets or something on it?
That was the first stage. So the stage that I dumpstered, there was like 2, you could start anywhere. It was a short course with a little activator sequence. And with some movement, and there was 2 targets. I started in the back. You could start anywhere. 2 targets on the left, and then a target up on the right. You had to kind of move up to the right and move up a little bit, and then all the way up in the front, there was an activator sequence with an activator, 2 statics, and a swinger, I think it was. So I shot the first 2 targets. That was fine. I ran over. I actually went to transit. I just like transitioned to the next target, just like totally like out of my mind, and forgot that I had to like move to go shoot that target. So now I'm like shuffling over like a weirdo with my gun up. Shot a no shoot on that. And so now I'm like rushing, and it was just a whole mess. And what happened was I got up to the front. I shot the activator. My plan was to go activator, static paper, and then back to finish on the swinger. And I edged, and I knew I was going to have to go quick on the static to get back to the swinger in time. And I edged the activator, went to the first paper. The activator, I didn't see it going down, went back. When I get there, just as I'm breaking the shot on the activator, I see that it's falling. So I basically doubled the activator down. And then I go back to the other static that I was going to shoot. And out of the corner of my eye, I see my swinger come out. So I just like look at the swinger transition, and I'm like shooting at the static on the right while I'm transitioning over to the swinger, and just had 2 mics. It was just a total mess of a stage that should have really been a pretty simple stage. But I guess that's the pressure of nationals, right? I think everyone has a dumpster stage that they wish they could do over. So mine just happened to be on the very last stage of the match.
Well, and luckily enough, there wasn't a lot of points on that stage. It wasn't like a 32 rounder where you blew up and you're like 100 points down because you're not a J.
I didn't have a squib on a right.
Yeah. Because that was a couple stages back. That was like on 11, I think that happened to him. So
yeah, I think it was a 140 point stage.
Yeah, that's
so. I guess if there's a stage to dumpster, it's a 70 point stage or whatever that one was instead of a big field course.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Now, speaking of, being able to manage your, your levels throughout the match, your performance, you have a manager, your wife, Taylor, who is very nice.
I agree.
But how did you convince her to be like, hey, help take care of me while I'm at a match and, come with me instead of staying at home?
So she isn't just my manager in shooting. She's kind of like manages my life in a lot of ways. But we're best friends and we do everything together. So like I mentioned the turkey hunting thing, we turkey hunt together. We pretty much do everything together. So it didn't take much convincing. When I first started, she actually shot a little bit of IDPA with me. And she just, for one reason or another, she just didn't enjoy it. When we first met, she never had shot a gun in her life. And so I introduced her to shooting. And she does enjoy shooting, but the competitive thing, the pressure, she just would rather just kind of go and hang out and travel and, the whole going out to dinner and all the fun aspects of traveling to matches. But she's also, she's a super competitive person. Growing up her whole life, she was a competitive cheerleader. And she's won national championships both as an athlete and as a coach in cheerleading, and she still coaches. And her brothers were all like super into sports and athletic, and so her whole life she was traveling, going to baseball games and travel basketball games and things like that with her brother. So I think she enjoys. She's a sports fan, like a professional sports fan. So I think she just enjoys being a spectator of sports, and the fact that her husband is doing it and is fairly competitive and performs fairly well. I think she enjoys that aspect of it as well. But I think she knows she's learned this game right along with me. So she's not just there like making sure I'm drinking water and eating snacks or whatever. She understands stage planning and she'll help me plan stages. She understands my strengths and weaknesses. So she'll kind of like point things out in the stage that'll kind of help me get a leg up based on my stage and those types of things, or based on my strengths and weaknesses. But she also is there just to make sure I don't have to think about anything. That's honestly, I'm not just saying this because she's my wife. I wouldn't perform the way that I do if it wasn't for her and the help that she gives me. Like, I don't have to think about drinking water. I just turn around and there's water in my face. I don't have to think about where's my pro grip. When I'm on deck, I got pro grip right there ready for me to go. She records all my stages. I used to run a hat cam. I don't anymore because it's one more thing to think about and distract me. But she used to, like, I'd turn around and my camera would be there waiting for me. So she helps me clean mags if we're shooting like a super sandy range and I'm cleaning mags that go on the ground. she helps me take them apart and clean them. So really I can just focus on stage planning and shooting the match, and she does everything else for me. So it's really great if you can get a manager that'll do those things for you. It will increase and improve your match performance. So you should consider looking into that.
I think, but then the problem is then everyone's got a managers. But the nice thing is you do have your 12-man squad becomes a 13-person squad because you've
She
got
does
your
help pace. She does
Mhm.
help pace. She's usually like kind of quiet. She's a quiet person. She's a shy person. And usually she kind of like, people don't even notice that she's out there pacing, but she's like big major matches. Sometimes she doesn't, just because there's a lot riding and she doesn't want to make a mistake and be the one to have to cause a reshoot or something. And I don't blame her for that.
Mhm.
But yeah, every local match she's out there pacing, helping reset and all that stuff too. So
Well, because she realizes the faster these stages get done, the faster she can go out to lunch afterwards.
exactly.
And no one wants a hangry manager.
That's right. But she's always cheery, ready to
Yeah.
rock.
Yeah. As we can tell, she's obviously behind the camera somewhere staring at you.
She's on cat patrol, so she's keeping the cats from being annoying. So
Oh, there you go.
I'm sure she can probably hear the
Yeah.
conversation.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's always a benefit. Plus, to have a man, someone who's there with you. You never have to travel alone. You always got someone to travel with. So when do you fly? I'm assuming most times, or do you drive?
I do not. I've
Okay.
never flown to a match.
Well, at least then you have a companion in the car to then make sure you don't fall asleep.
Yes.
Now, do you drive?
Yeah,
I'm
she's
assuming?
the DJ. Yeah, I drive. Pretty much all the time, unless I'm like super tired, she'll take over and drive a little bit. She doesn't
Mhm.
like driving in the dark, but she's the DJ. She'll run podcasts. She'll run music, so I don't even have to think about that. The other thing I didn't mention, she books all the podcasts. She knows the schedule better than I do.
Mhm.
And she makes the schedule. She's a planner, and I'm not. Like, I live my whole life, I just kind of go with the flow and fly by the seat of my pants. And I'll figure it out when I get there. But she's the opposite of that, which makes my life a lot easier because the hotel's booked and it's booked in advance, or Airbnb or whatever. So that's pretty awesome too.
Mhm. So does that mean she plans your curriculum for you too?
For my work, you mean?
Yeah.
No, she doesn't do that. Although I will say, so did I already say this? I'm a college professor.
Yep.
So I have summers off, and so I teach, basically, like, in a nutshell, without getting into like the nuts and bolts of what I teach. It's basically like horticulture, plant science type stuff.
Mhm.
The kids who come through my program are going to go be like golf course superintendents, most of them, or manage like greenhouse production, nurseries, things like that. So when I was in grad school, I had to do a lot of presentations, and I was going and doing like professional talks at conferences and stuff. So she knows more about turfgrass management and annual bluegrass weevils, which is the insect pest that I was studying in grad school. More about them than probably 99.9% of society. So she
Mhm.
probably could plan some of my curriculum.
Oh, there you go. I mean, but yeah, so it's got to be nice. Now, do you prefer to stay in like an Airbnb type place over a hotel, or is it just kind of what's available in the area?
Yeah, I mean, if I can stay at an Airbnb, I definitely would. This year in for nationals this year in Columbus, we stayed at a hotel, and we got a suite, so we had like a little kitchenette. And I'm very particular about like what I eat and stuff leading up before the match. So if we got an Airbnb, we can cook meals and eat exactly what I want to eat. So we stayed at a hotel, and that was fine. But definitely, like last year in Talladega, we had an Airbnb. We were on a little lake. So like when I was off schedule, I was like fishing in a little pond and stuff like that. That's pretty nice, and it's super private, like out in the woods. So I definitely, if we can get an Airbnb for Area 7 coming up here in Maine, we got an Airbnb for that. So
Now will you stay with other people and like share the cost, or is it just normally you two just going for the Airbnb?
we have in the past. Last year when we went and shot, I forget, it was the Trident benefit match in Maine. Stayed with a buddy of mine. But usually it's just the two of us.
Mm-hmm. Probably makes it just a little bit easier sometimes too. I mean, the costs are up, but then it's just the two of you, so it's not the end of the world.
Yep.
So, you've said this a couple times throughout the shows, you feel like your season's pretty much, over. you've got Area 7 still, but your season's pretty much wrapped up. Um, what are your plans so far for the rest of this year?
So I am really like I said, we've been traveling pretty much. Like this is the first time that I've gone a 2-week span without traveling somewhere like really far away for
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks in a row. And it's kind of nice to not have somewhere to go. So I'm really looking forward to just kind of like not having travel in the near future. And shooting some locals. Like I've shot, I think, one local match this entire season.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm looking for. I kind of have a little core group of friends in Northeast PA that I shoot most of my locals with, who I haven't really got a chance to shoot a lot with this year. So I'm just looking forward to shooting some locals, and I think trying some new things. With only shooting major matches. You're in major match, like you're not willing to try new things and kind of push a little bit here and there and that type of stuff. So looking forward to maybe making some gains and doing some training and saving some primers for practice instead of matches. So
Mm-hmm. Well, that's
that'll be
good.
good. I might we've kind of tossed around the idea of doing like another level 2. I know Western PA I think is like late July, early August. And then the Virginia State I think is September, October. So we'll see how I feel. I'm sure if I go a month or two without shooting a major, I'll probably be itching to go shoot one.
Mm-hmm.
And those matches, both of those matches still have like over 100 slots available, I think. So I might last minute hop into one of those matches. But for right now, the plan is to shoot Area 7 and then kind of just shoot a bunch of locals, as many locals as I can, have some fun.
Fair enough. That's always a good way of spreading it out. But we did get 2 listener questions I feel that are qualified. So, what is your favorite club to shoot in PA?
So I only shoot 2 anymore. There used to be a match in Matamoros, which was a really good match. It was like 8 or 9, maybe 10, I forget. It's been a couple years since they've run matches, but they don't run matches anymore. Right now I just shoot Halstead and Factoryville.
Mm-hmm.
Factoryville just got brand new bays, and they're really nice, like some of the nicest bays around. And he's been running like 7 or 8 stages at a local. Halstead is another one that I just really enjoy shooting there. I really like the guys that run Halstead. Not that I don't like the guys that run Factoryville. I like those guys too a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Those are my 2 locals that I shoot. I kind of feel like home. I've been shooting them since Factoryville is actually the first USPSA match I ever shot. And Halstead is kind of where my core group of friends resides. So we'll call it a tie between those
Mm-hmm.
2. Anilani's great. I'm sure you've probably heard people talk about Anilani. Have you ever shot a match at like their sectional or anything like that?
No, I haven't made it out that way yet.
So that's where Area 8 is. They have a sectional match that I've never shot because it's in May when I'm turkey hunting. But their local matches are like level 2 matches. They'll have like 12 stages or something like that at a local match. But it's just far. It's like 3 hours, just under 3 hours for me. So it's just far enough away that I'm not going to go shoot it every month, but I will go down and shoot that like once or twice a year. I'll probably go down in August this year and shoot it if I'm not shooting any other majors. But that's a great match too. Just a little too far to be shooting regularly.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough, yeah, and we all got to draw the line on how far we're willing to drive for local matches. Because really, as soon as you add that drive, you say it's 3 hours one way. That's 6 hours in the car one day on your weekend, and you're like,
yes, yeah. It used to be the same weekend as either the Halstead or the Factoryville match. I can't remember. And they used to split like Saturday and Sunday.
mm-hmm.
So a couple times when they were doing that, I would go down, shoot the one that was on Saturday, and then that got me much closer to Anilani, and then we get a hotel, and then I'd kind of get more bang for my buck. We'd shoot 2 matches in one weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're split up, so it doesn't really work out. But
Yeah,
it is what it is. I really only get 2 monthlies a week, or I'm sorry, 2 monthlies a month, two club matches a month. But I will occasionally. There's a club up in Mass that I will shoot on occasion, but
mm-hmm.
they run. It's like that's like an hour and 45, and it's like 4 stages in a classifier. So I'll go shoot that when I'm really itching for a match to go shoot. But other than that, it's just the 2 NPA.
Right. Gotcha. Now, do you have any superstitions or pre-match rituals that you must do?
So I think people think I'm superstitious just because of how like particular I am about certain things. Um, I already mentioned like I particular about what I eat before a match. Like it's pretty like steak and potatoes. Like that's my pre-match meal
Mm-hmm.
that I'm gonna eat the night before a match. Um, I do like I listen to like a very specific playlist of like early 2000s new metal, like Slipknot and Korn and Disturbed and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
On my ride to the match. Um, but outside of that, like not really. I think I have some friends who kind of make fun of me for the steak things, for the
Mm-hmm.
steak thing, who have gone and shot majors with me, and I'm like, we got to get steak. Like I can't go somewhere if it doesn't have steak. And I think they think it's a superstition, but it's really more like I just feel the best when I eat that, and I want to feel the best when I'm shooting the match. So
Right.
that's what I go with.
So, when you get steak and potatoes, what cut of steak is it, and how is it cooked?
I don't know. I don't really know like the steak cuts. Usually like whatever like the I don't know whatever looks good. I guess I like
Mm-hmm.
it medium rare. I will say that. Um, but I don't know. I never like I don't know the different cuts names. I like
Okay.
T-bone steaks. I
Mm-hmm.
like filet mignon. I'm usually not going to get that at at a restaurant before a match. But outside of those are like the two names of the cuts that I really know. But medium rare, that's a given.
Right.
Sometimes rare, sometimes rare. If I'm cooking it myself and I know what the like if it's like venison that I shot myself, a lot of time, like that's usually my steak and potatoes. If I'm going like to shoot a local match and I'm cooking it at home, it's usually venison steak. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll cook that rare. But if I'm getting it from a restaurant, it's usually medium rare.
Right. Now, now a lot of people, I feel like, I've grown up in a hunting family. Like some people just don't know how to cook venison, and it drives me
Uh-huh.
absolutely
Uh-huh.
insane.
You're saying they overcook it?
Yeah, like
Yes.
it's cooked to hell, and it's like
So
you have
so
one job.
basically I just kind of like show it to the heat,
Hmm.
and then that's like because you dry it out, it doesn't have any fat in it really.
Hmm.
So you'll dry it out really quick. But we recently like we got the sous vide, like the hot water thing where you can like really dial in the temperature. So
Hmm.
we'll do it in that all day, and then we'll just sear it on both sides. And that has been a game changer as far as cooking venison goes. You really can't screw it up, and it's super tender and moist.
Hmm. Yeah, that's definitely got to be a plus when you can sous vide it. I haven't convinced the wife to get a sous vide yet.
Oh man, you need one. We actually so much to the point where when we were at nationals, we went to Walmart to buy a sous vide to cook my steak at the hotel, and they didn't have any. But it's definitely a game changer. You need one.
So then so then if you find one on the road, you can have a portable sous vide to take with you and be like, it's going in the car.
Yeah, we just need to get a second one for trips like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually I gotta put that on my. I gotta remind my manager that we'll need one for when we go to Maine.
Well, there you go. Exactly. You got to have.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, did I know I had some more questions. Where did they go? Oh, here we go. Okay, this is a good question. What is something that current Ben would like to tell past Ben about shooting? It could be, USPSA, it could be hunting, it could be anything.
Um, so I'll go USPSA. I think the biggest hurdle for me, and I kind of got to a mental level that I wanted to be at, and then I lost it for like a year, and I feel like I've recently found it again. But if you're trying on a stage, like if you're out there and you're like trying to go fast, or and I'm sure there's some guys that can do this, some of the top guys that can be like, okay, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna shoot X fast on these targets, and then I'm gonna shoot X fast on these targets, and I used to try to do that, and then that's what I'm thinking about when I'm shooting, instead of just kind of like programming the stage and then just letting the dot tell me what to do. So my first year of shooting USPSA, I just wanted to make GM. I wasn't shooting any majors really. 2020 and 2021, I think I shot one major, maybe
Mm-hmm.
two. And I was just trying to make GM. So I was just going as fast as I could all the time. And then I made GM and kind of started focusing more on training for matches. And I was just like watching the top guys shoot, and I was like, oh, I just got to like go really fast. And usually it was resulting in obviously more errors, worse hits, and honestly slower times. Just when you got a lot of tension and you're herky jerky and you're kind of these little tenth of a second hiccups here and there, those add up over the course of a field, long field course or whatever. And when I was able to convince myself, and it's really hard to do, I thought it was easy. And then, like I said, I lost the ability to do it for like a year. But if you can really just convince yourself to just like, you hear people say this all the time, you're not going to get better at the major match. Like your level of skill when you show up at nationals it just is what it is. And the only way that you're going to be able to shoot, or me anyways, I don't want to speak for everyone, but the only way I'm going to shoot to that level of skill is if I just go out there and shoot comfortably and do what the dot tells me to do. And this sounds silly, and I say this to people and they laugh at me, but just make sure that I don't pull the trigger unless the dot is where I want the bullet to go. And it's really easy to not do that. It's really easy to just like see brown and red and just pull the trigger twice. And usually that's not going to be any faster, and you're going to have worse hits if you do that. So I think maybe a bit of a long technical answer that 2020 Ben might not really even understand what the heck I'm talking about. But I think just to kind of like put a nice little bow on it is like, you don't really have to try hard. Just go out and shoot comfortable and do what the dot tells you to do, or the sight if you're shooting irons.
Right. And I agree with that, because like I even shot a classifier a couple weeks ago. It just was put the dot. It was like a 2020, 2206. So it was like a open IPSC, a mini popper, a IPSC with a no shoot, and then an open IPSC, super close. But, as soon as I put the dot on the target, it was, just let the sights dictate the pace, and,
Right.
and you're going to shoot really good. And that was one of my highest classifiers yet. But
that's usually how it goes. I kind of had this breakthrough in practice the other day. Mm-hmm. So I kind of fell back into this mentality of like, you got to try hard. Like you're a GM now. You've had some pretty high finishes at some major matches. And if you're going to beat those guys who are always beating you, you got to go out there and you got to try really hard to beat them. And I was telling myself that I was letting the sights dictate what I was doing, but I really wasn't. Mm-hmm. And I kind of had this breakthrough in practice the other day where right before nationals, where kind of had some targets set up, some close open targets and some far difficult targets and some steel or whatever. And I was just like ripping on them. I was like, I got to get faster. I got to get faster. And then I was just kind of like, all right, I'm just going to like not pull the trigger if I don't have a good sight picture, right? Like what a novel idea that is. And my splits were a little slower. My transitions were probably a little bit slower on the close targets. But my transition to steel was a lot faster. My transition to the far difficult targets was much faster. And my hits were way, way better. Mm-hmm. And I didn't try. Like it was easy. It felt very comfortable. I didn't feel tense. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, that's what that needs to feel like. So then I did that a million times over the next couple of days and was able to kind of channel that on most of the stages at nationals. So hopefully that kind of sticks with me.
Yeah, and a lot of people, they honestly need to stick to that and like figure that out for themselves, and their shooting will go up.
It's hard to know how to do it until you do it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like it's hard. Like you can explain it to someone, but until they actually do it, it's hard to kind of know what it feels like.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those trial and error kind of things as well. So, I guess here's a question. So, who are some of your biggest mentors or supporters that aren't your wife?
Ooh, that's tricky.
So not sponsors. We got that for the next question.
Yes, sure. So just kind of like when I got into shooting, I very quickly, humble brag, I guess, very quickly got good. And when I shot IDPA, like above average, I should say. Mm-hmm. And when I shot IDPA, I was winning level 3s within like a couple months of starting in the sport. Mm-hmm. And I was training a lot. Like I said, I was doing hours and hours of dry fire a day. But the ability to just like pick up a gun and go shoot it pretty well, I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't have a dad who was, like I said, like from the time I was 5, like he was out there teaching us how to shoot guns. And not just like, here's a gun, go shoot it. Like really working with us to make sure that we were pulling the trigger properly. Mm-hmm. And it kind of made trigger pulling and proper good fundamentals kind of second nature to me. So by the time I started shooting competitively, obviously there's a lot of things that make you good at this sport besides just pulling the trigger and shooting accurate shots, right? But that was something I didn't. That's a really hard thing to do, especially with a handgun. Shooting a handgun accurately is difficult. And I kind of was already ahead of the game in that aspect in a lot of ways. And I've obviously improved a lot since then, but I had a major head start. So my dad made me a good shooter just in general when I was younger, and that helped me a lot in this sport. I have like I said, I kind of got a core group of friends in Northeast PA. Some of them shoot majors, but most of them don't. Even the ones that do, it's very few. And I've shot with those guys since 2020. Most of them have become friends outside of shooting for me. And like this year at nationals, like they were texting me along the way. Like I said, I don't track scores, but they were tracking scores. And they were kind of following along and rooting me on and giving me encouragement and things like that. So that's been really good. And a lot of those guys, like those, a lot of those guys are A and M class, really good shooters that have been doing this for a very long time. So when I first started out, like I'd never seen someone really shoot fast. And then I saw these guys and they kind of showed me what it was like to shoot fast and, how to shoot USPSA proper instead of IDPA. And that was definitely helpful as well to have some guys that I could trust and that I liked and could squad with every week. And so shout out to those guys. They know who they are.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree. Having that core group of friends that you're able to, bounce ideas off with, train with, shoot with, and, conversate with is some of the best reasons why we shoot this sport.
Totally.
Now we're at the part of we got to pay the bills for the people who help you out. So go ahead and plug your sponsors here.
So I really only have one sponsor. And I'm not really the type of guy to seek out sponsors. So if anyone's out there listening and they'd like to sponsor me, I'm all ears. But for right now, the only company who's ever really reached out to me is Revolution Brass. So they are a processed brass company. There's a bunch of them out there. I tried a bunch of them. I was a customer of Revolution Brass before they were a sponsor of mine. And I was a customer because it's just the best processed brass. Like I would buy processed brass and I was crunching every 10th primer was getting crunched, or I was getting cracked stuff, or it was just really dirty, or whatever the case was. We've all shot processed brass before, but it's like brand spanking new brass. And so, and their prices are really good. I don't have a discount code, but there's always a discount code if you follow them on Instagram, 10, 15, 20% off. And they're just really, it's just really high quality processed brass. So if you are somebody who shoots processed brass and you're looking for high quality processed brass with swage primer pockets and it's really clean and all that good stuff, check them out.
Well, awesome. Yeah. So everyone needs to go check out Revolution Brass. But Ben, if people want to talk to you on the internet or watch some of your videos you might put up, where can they follow you at?
So I'm just on Instagram. It's b.czyzewski.shooting. So I'm hoping you can put up a link or something and not force people to have to try and spell my last name.
Yeah, there'll be a link in either format. So I'm not that much of a dick.
But there's not too many b.czyzewski shooting pages out there. So should be pretty easy to find.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be easy to find. And Ben, I want to thank you, brother, for coming on. Tell your manager, Taylor, thank you for setting this up and being courteous and patient with us while we get through this so she can hang out with the cats while we're doing this.
Absolutely, man. This was fun. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, brother. We'll have to do this again in some time
whenever
we get around to it. But listeners, until next time, get out and do the things. And I will see you on the next one.